So I've been searching for a while for a good standalone pull-up bar. This way I can get off my door frame and protect it from things like the door frame breaking and even protecting myself from potential injury. Now in the past I've used a couple different doorway style pull-up bars, including the Perfect Fitness pull-up bars, multiple versions of that one, as well as the Crossgrips by JFlex, which are two handles you can put up on your door frame and do pull-ups that way. Now, after scanning through Amazon and looking at other sites online, I did decide to check out the BaseBlocks Big Bar. So it's been on my mind for a while. The main reason I didn't pull the trigger earlier is really because of the price. But otherwise, it seems like a decent product, and I actually went ahead and bought it just because I really wanted to try it out for the channel and see if maybe that higher price tag is something I can swallow and use in my home gym setup. So the purchase price for me on BaseBlocks for this bar was $245 before taxes. So again, this is not the cheapest bar you will find on the market, but it is actually one of the cheaper options I can find for a standalone option right now. So there needs to be a better product on the market. Maybe I'll even develop one in the future, but this is getting ridiculous with these bars and how much they cost, especially with this one where it has some things I do and don't like that I think really make it hard for me to justify the cost, but it is probably one of the best options out there if you're looking for a standalone device. So one immediate pro is that the pull-up bar showed up a few days after ordering it. I thought it'd be like a week or longer, but this thing came pretty fast, almost like an Amazon order, so I was really happy with that. Jumping into the unboxing process, it took me about 15 minutes to put together. There aren't too many pieces to it. It's mostly just bolts and screws, along with a couple different pieces, like a couple feet pieces, and the bars themselves. But again, it's not really overly hard to put together. They give you some tools to do it, and you could do it easily in, again, about 15 to 20 minutes. But here are some specifications after I did some measurements, as well as taking a look at what the online website has for things like how much weight it can hold. So with that, this bar can hold up to 660 pounds, which is quite a bit more than other ones I found online, which is awesome, especially if I really want to weight things down or even use the bands on it, because those can produce a lot of force down if you were getting really strong. Now for the highest height of the bars that I measured at, it came in at 80.5 inches. They mark it at 81 inches on the website, but I measured it at 80.5. From there, the width of the bars themselves are about 34.5 inches. So that's not too bad. It actually fits in my closet. I'll throw some pictures in this video, but fits within my closet pretty nicely. Now for the feet of this pull-up bar, you will notice that it has kind of two options. You have one where the feet are up on either side, or you can lay them down for a bit more stabilization. Now for me, and just doing regular pull-ups, I can actually do it with the feet up, and it feels perfectly fine with them up. But again, if you're feeling like you're wobbling around, or maybe you want to do something like muscle ups, you might want to throw the feet down on the floor, those extenders, to make it a little longer. Now for the feet of the Big Bar pull-up bar, if you decide to put the feet up, you will have a length of 29.25 inches. Now again, this is where it's most unstable, but for me, again, if I'm just doing regular pull-ups, this is more than fine and feels stable enough. Now, if you want to go into things like muscle ups and get a little bit more swing into your movement, you may want to throw those extenders down for more stabilization. And with that, the extenders with them down goes to 60.5 inches. Now, the bar diameter when you're holding it is actually 2 inches around. So it is a pretty big grip to hold on to. So you might need a little bit bigger hands. I'll get into this later, but do know it is about 2 inches in diameter. And it is black coated steel from what it says online. So make sure if you're looking into it that you know that it's that black coated steel material and 2 inches in diameter. And if you're looking to move it around, I can kind of like walk it around in places. It does weigh about 48 pounds, so just under the 50-pound mark if you're looking to, again, be like me and maybe move it in and out of your closet. Now with that, let's jump into my pros and cons list of the Big Bar by BaseBlocks. Now my first pro is that the height of the bars coming in at 80.5 inches is a good height for me as someone who is 5 feet 11 inches tall. Also, this does fit right in my closet, so in my place, this just barely makes it under the about 82-inch height closet. So it does slide in there nicely, and the feet, when they're up, also fits in the closet as well. Now, if I put the feet down, it would extend it into the room a little bit, but even there, it's not too bad. So again, this is pretty much perfect for my setup in the way I want to use it. Now, if it's inside the closet fully, the bar itself is kind of inside, and maybe I might hit my head on the frame around the door. But otherwise, it works very, very good for my personal setup in terms of size and my height. But do know I do have to bend my knees just a little bit in order to do this, but no more than I had to do it when I was using my door frame instead. So again, it's a little bit taller, but still I have to bend my knees just a little bit. Now I do use this on a wood surface, and overall it feels very sturdy on a wood surface. Now I have not tried it on a rug one since I don't really have one available to me, but at least for wood, it feels great to use. Even with the extenders up, I feel perfectly fine when doing it. Again, the only time I probably put them down is if I'm doing something crazier, like swinging around or doing some other kind of weird body weight movement that just required me to move in weird ways. Then maybe I'd throw them down the floor, but ultimately I'll probably just keep them up all the time when I'm doing my exercises. But also, I do recommend only doing hanging and vertical pulling movements or pull down movements with this. Don't be pulling it towards you if you're standing or something like that, because it could come crashing towards you. Only go in the vertical plane. And with that, you can attach resistance bands to this bar, and it can support them pretty well. What I've done in testing is just thrown the bar right over the top of my loop bands, hooked up some handles to it, and just did some normal reps with it. It's a little awkward because you have to kind of have it flop around the backside and come back to you, but overall, it's really not that different to where you feel any kind of change in the exercise overall. But do know, I am able to use resistance bands with this, and it is wide enough to easily hold them when doing any exercise I'm looking to do, as long as it's going, and again, in that vertical direction. The next pro is that it is easy to move around. Again, it only weighs about 48 pounds. You can actually stand in the middle square, pick it up on the two sides, and just kind of shuffle your feet to move it a little bit. Again, really, really easy to get around. It's not too heavy for me, at least, to get into a different spot if I don't want to use it from my closet location. And my last pro is that it fits in my closet, especially if I put the feet extenders up. So it's really cool to see that fits in. I might try and throw some other equipment around it, like my dumbbells and stuff that I have. It wouldn't fit with my full dumbbell set where I have like the stand that you can put the dumbbells into. I'd actually have to take those, like the cradle off of it for the core fitness dumbbells to actually fit properly, but it should fit between the bars on the floor if I took it off and used it that way. I could also put other equipment in there just for safekeeping, like my resistance bands and whatnot, but ultimately it should work just fine for most of my setup. So now that the pros are out of the way, let's take a look at my cons for the Big Bar by BaseBlocks. So my first con is that if you'd like to change the height of the bar, it's not that easy to do. You actually have to take out the bolts, meaning unscrew, I think it's 4 different bolts to change the height, which drops it to about 45 inches if you do so. I don't plan on ever taking it out of that 80-inch height, which is a good sign, but if you needed it lower, or you just want to put it lower for a day, you really have to spend some time doing that. It'd probably take you like 5 minutes. It wouldn't take like a super long time, but it would be an annoyance. You had to take out all the equipment to do so. You couldn't really do it by hand. You had to untie it with the tools that it gave you, but do know you would have to do that. You can't just quickly take it out and then move it down. There's no like pin selectors or anything. So that is one annoyance with this product. My next con is that after some use, the 2-inch diameter thickness of the bars with the material that they are is pretty hard to hold if you get sweaty hands. Now for me, I've only tested a few times and it hasn't been too big an issue, but it did get a little slippery in one of my sets as I started to get a little sweaty palms. I still was able to finish the set, but do know it could become an issue because grip is a hard thing to hold when those bars get slippery. So I kind of wish they had a different material where you're holding the bars themselves, but I think they're trying to have you improve your grip strength as well. But do know it can be annoying, especially you start getting to like weighted pull-ups. It can really become a hindrance into you getting stronger without being able to grip the bar properly. And for people with small hands, this might become a big issue very quickly. Luckily for me, my hands are just big enough to really kind of grasp all the way around the bar and be able to still do pull-ups, even if I feel like I'm starting to slip off. So my next con is that the width of the bars is just a little too narrow. If you're looking to do kind of like wide pull-ups, you can't go very wide with this thing as it starts to round out on the edges. And then if you do so, you kind of have your elbows resting on the bars when you're doing them. So I do wish they went maybe like an inch or two wider, but ultimately I kind of just do shoulder width anyway. But if you are someone looking to go wider with your arms, especially if you're taller, this might not be the option for you because of that width limitation of the pull-up bar itself. Next con is that for pull-up related exercises, you are kind of locked into only 2 versions you can do, at least when holding the bar. And that would be regular pull-ups and chin-ups, where you have pronated and supinated hands. While this isn't the worst thing in the world, if you are looking to do hammer pull-ups, you can't do it with this device without getting some kind of third-party attachment. So that's unfortunate. I don't know if that will ever come out with anything you can put on the bar in order to do some kind of hammer style. You could buy something like rings or different kind of hooks to use as well. But if you're just looking to buy this and do it right out of the box, it does not come with that option. You will have to buy something else to do hammer style pull-ups. And my last con is that I think the price is a bit too high for this product. I really think this should be around $150 at the high end. I know inflation, everything is driving prices up like crazy. But to me, for what this is, I really feel like 150 would be a good solid price, where the 245-ish mark is a bit steep in my opinion. It's really been hard to find a good product at a good price that I can afford and like put into my home gym and still recommend to you guys. So this one's on the cusp of being too high, but ultimately for me, it's going to work out very, very well, I think, for my setup. But it could be a hindrance for you if you were thinking that this is too costly. I do have things in the past that were pretty expensive, but if you're trying to go really cheap, it's really hard to get away from the door frame ones just because they are on a much cheaper side of things if your door frame can support it and you feel safe doing so. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up, but ultimately, I really think this is a good direction for what I see for standalone pull-up bars. Again, it's pricey, has some issues with the diameter and how big it is. You are missing some features I'd like to see, but I really like the size of the bar itself. I hope people are able, or other companies are able, to make a bar that can withstand this type of resistance. The 660 pounds is great, so I hope they can be that strong, but also provide a bit more in them, as at least for the price tag, maybe even drop the price tag a bit to kind of fall in line with where I feel like the value is there as well for the money I'm spending. I do plan on looking into others in the future, so I'll keep up to date and see if there's anything else that can compete against this and improve my home gym. But for now, I will be keeping the BaseBlocks Big Bar as my pull-up option when doing it with my dumbbell setup and my resistance band setup.